Welcome back, everyone, to our afternoon session. As previous, we will be moving forward in 10-minute blocks. Dean, you are first up for our afternoon session, so take your seat. Dan, you're allocated 10 minutes to present to members. It is suggested that you make your presentation during the first 5 or 6 minutes to allow us time for questions at the end. Your allocated time includes both your presentation and questions, and Amy will give you a hand signal at 9 minutes. So you know that you're nearing the end of your time. Make a start when you're ready.
Thank you. And thank you once again for allowing public submissions to be given verbally. I know it's not something you have to do, but I always appreciate that that we're allowed to do this, and I like to take that advantage of that. Audit New Zealand gave an adverse report on the basis of the South Wairau Council not being able to stay within its debt funding limits as outlined in this plan. The reality here was that neither of the council's consultation documents show a pathway that allows us to afford the water reform that is required. Between Audit New Zealand and the data presented by this council, it is clear that we are unable to afford water reform, yet the long-term plan clearly does not try and tackle our overspending, nor our need to bring in restraint, restructuring within the council, or understand the community's priorities as to where money should be spent. This document is a business as usual approach with a little tinkering around the sign, with scant regard for our inability to pay for the future. It's a shame this long-term plan was an opportunity for the council to take a genuine deep dive into how it operates and get the community involved, and yet all it has managed to do is take a paddle in the shallow end. The best example of this is question 2, in which the analysis showed that people living over 10 kilometres away from town save between 17 and 36 cents per week. That doesn't pay for the coffee cup, yet alone the coffee. We're facing a tsunami of expense between at least 220 million and 280 million, and you are consulting on 36 cents a week. SURPs. The concept of SURPs is a good concept, but it's like the calamitous introduction of capital rates, where you told the ratepayers Martinville would have a 1% effect, and the actual effect was around the 50% mark. You have failed to consult on the actual impact on multiple SURPs. Apart from capturing the houses at the orchards in Greytown, which was caused by a resource-intensive failure by this council, no part of the SURP implementation has been in line with Section 4 of the Financing and Revenue Policy or the council's arguments for moving to capital rates. In fact, this revenue neutral policy that has required the hiring of extra staff and unnecessary expense has led us to abandon New Zealand-wide accepted QV definition of a SURP, only to have yet again amend our own definition. The problem is this new definition is a failure that offers no clarity. It fails to define what a dependent is, what a family member is, what an essential agricultural worker is, what a non-essential agricultural worker is, how long a SURP has to be available to qualify as a second SURP. The one-size-fits-all SURP charge, especially for small and micro business, is preposterous. There are at least 9 examples just here in Martinborough where landlords are going to charge full SURPs for small SURPs less than 50 square metres, where they have no access to sewer and some have no water. Yet the council is going to charge them, and thus landlords will pass on to shop owners charges for services the council does not provide and currently is impossible to provide, such as sewer connections. You are charging people for sewer connections they don't have and you can't provide. Please, how on earth do you think that is fair? Second SURP charges should be administered not as a whole SURP, but as a targeted rate using categories such as small business, short-term accommodation, long-term accommodation, to name a few, and obviously with differing rates. Refuse and recycling charge. You claim you have listened, yet I think you are being deceptive in saying this. The fact is, the council is going to have to buy and deliver new wheelie bins and bottle bins to sewer owners who do not need them or necessarily have anywhere to store them. A total waste of money and proof of a non-usage driven charge. If you've listened, then why are you not taking the same approach for all SURPs? Roading. The central government's failure to fund NZTA and thus for NZTA to grant zero funding for low-cost, low-risk roading in South Orapa, along with NZTA signalling that the Cape Plaza special purpose road funding will be cut, is both alarming and a backdoor cost increase forced upon councils. To only read about the severe central government actions in this document leads me to ask, what protest action are we taking to fight this neglect of rural New Zealand by this current government? What action has the council taken to lobby both Mike Butterick and Kieran McAnulty, garner the public's attention and demand action? So clearly, only funding 49% is the only option. What I don't understand is how a council that says it's gone line by line 5 times to find ways to save money and then post on Facebook how great it is by resurfacing car parks, which are very low speed areas. Whilst there are so many rural roads calling out for urgent attention. As much as these car park projects are appreciated, they really are vanity projects. Ones we could have easily lived without, and again, another symptom of it's just business as usual by this council. This council during last year's workshop emphasised that the 1,000+ petition had no influence on how this long-term plan was constructed and rate increases were set. I tell you now, you only have to look outside to see that mentality is no badge of honour, but a symptom of not listening to ratepayers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Deputy Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
I will start the questions. Dean, you opened your presentation by saying that the adverse opinion and the LTP reflected that we were unable to afford water reform. I just wanted to clarify that you are aware that what this LTP shows is we are unable to afford water without reform. So the numbers in the LTP are without reform.
Yes.
So it's not reform we can't afford, it's water.
I totally understand and I agree and I accept. And to be really honest, I think you're in a complete hopeless situation, being forced by government under their water done well program. The only option we have is the 500%. If we look at those numbers, effectively, the Audit New Zealand is a symptom that regional councils cannot afford to do any of this work. Now, yes, it's only talking about in the long-term plan where there's no reform. But when I looked at the other document, I didn't see any Audit New Zealand response. Did they review that document? No. I truly believe, and I'll talk about this next week, if they looked at that document, they would say that we can't afford it. That neither option that the government is giving you to give us is achievable. And I think this adverse report, as much as I agree with what the Mayor has said in here, is a symptom that central government is making it impossible for small regional areas to fix their water infrastructure.
I hesitate to risk your wrong, Chair, but can I invite Dean to have a conversation with someone about everything we've done regarding the Cape Palace Road? But it's just
outside of this meeting.
Yes, yeah. But my particular question, Dean, is just to be quite clear with regards to the low risk roading that NZTA has refused to subsidise.
Your recommendation is that you fund the 50% of it, not the 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we have to accept that. I mean, in essence, what's happened is we can't afford to fund more because we just don't have the ability to keep financing this when we have all this infrastructure. So we have the government on one hand saying, you have to fix water. It doesn't matter what costs, you have to fix water. Oh, and by the way, we're not going to give you any of this money. You're on your own. And we're too small to fight back. And if we just write to the minister saying, hey, Mr. Minister, this is unfair. Well, like every other letter we write to the minister, it's going to go, oh, yes, you're right. And put it over there, nothing's going to happen. What we need is to get out within the community, go through the community boards and say, this is what's happening. This is the rate rises that have been forced upon you by central government. And if the people say nothing, then fine. But give the people the opportunity to come back and say, hey, we need to protest and say something about this. We need to collectively get information and push it back to central government and say, rural New Zealand is the basis of which the exports that keep this country afloat are achieved. Yet we're screwing it over in terms of financing, so we can at least grow this.
Seconds left.
No, that's great. Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dean. Thanks for your submission and your time today. As
Very
we mentioned earlier in the sessions, all verbal presentations and submissions will be considered over the coming weeks as part of the deliberations.
Thank you.
We have Andy Foster next on the schedule. Andy is unavailable today, and we've used that gap to for Tui, who is representing the Featherston Community Board today. So he has gone live.
What numbers?
Have we got,
What numbers there?
have we got a page there?
Yeah, it's a last minute addition, so sorry.
Okay.
Still
Yeah.
don't know what page has.
No, it's not. It's on the general submissions, but not on the public speaking submissions. So everybody's here.
When goes?
Hmm?
And we can start getting ready.
Community.
Sorry, I was waiting. There was a debate in the background. I was just
Oh, no, that's
waiting to
not.
see where that went. Thank you all. Yes, I'm your surprise panelist for the afternoon. So I'm just talking to the Featherston Community Board response to the long-term plan consultation and the local waters done well consultation. So I'll just quickly run through the responses to the standard questions that we had and a little bit of extra context. And then I'll also touch briefly on a document we sent through.
Sorry, Joey, I'm just gonna be really rude and interrupt you there. Can I ask that you only present some long-term plans today and not local stuff on today?
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So running through them then, question one, we discussed the impact of the change to the uniform charges from a Featherston perspective, given the lower property values, that has a higher rate of impact for Featherstonians. So our recommendation was to retain option 2, as option 1 impacts the community more substantially. Question 2, targeted rates for towns. That's my paraphrasing of it. Featherston Community Board recommends option 2 on this, not introducing a targeted rate. Option 1 only benefits 15% of the population who still have access to the town services. And Featherston Community Board is not aware of any data or evidence showing that this 50% of the population use these services less. Question 3, around the SUIP definition. Featherston Community Board recommends proceeding with option 1, the new definition of SUIP. This makes it clearer and easier to understand, and users to understand more explicitly whether they meet this or do not. Question 4, rating per title rather than SUIP seems like a relatively straightforward and logical approach. They recommend an option progressing option 1, as this is effectively a user pays model, and makes sure that any the properties are being rated relative to the amount of rubbish that they're making. Just catching up with myself in the document. Question 5, with regard to Wellington water fees. FCB had a variety of views on this option, some recommending option 2 for affordability to ratepayers whilst having some support for water infrastructure investment, while others supported option 3 as it allows for planning and studies to understand the state of the network, including Featherston stormwater, and including enough budget to manage work and avoid loading up the backlog. Acknowledging that we are aware that this would involve a rates rise, but given the impact on Featherston particularly, those were the recommendations from Featherston Community Board. With regard to question 6 around roading, FCB recommends option 1, the 100% rate, as option 2 would see our roading assets decline potentially catastrophically in some cases. Additional to this, for the long-term plan, the Featherston Community Board would also request that SWDC particularly focus on Featherston as they plan and deliver community and economic development across the district. Around community development, Featherston has not had a recent significant investment in community development in the same way that Martinborough, with the library and playgrounds, lights, and Greytown, the sports facility at Kuranui and the skate park, have had in recent years, and is in need of reinvestment and reactivating in a similar way. Candidates for focus planning, investment, or delivery include the Anzac Hall, a great community asset but in need of further investment and better activation, the sports ground with similar comments, and the local parks and reserves, all in need of good management plans and resource for upkeep and development. And we have another note as well around economic development, that Featherston is logically located and shaped to be a key area for business development for the South Wairarapa district. All residents of the region pass through this to their towns from Wellington, and is the first town in the Wairarapa that visitors reach and travelling here from Wellington or further south. As such, it would benefit from a clear economic development plan for the community with strong consideration for the existing character and nature of the town. Supporting this, any planning or review of council policies and bylaws should consider supporting this development for the future growth of business in Featherston. And so that's the LTP part of our submission that came through, that we put through. I'll just quickly pick up, there was another document that was supplied earlier on in the early internal discussion around long-term planning to Rob at the time, that I believe did not end up getting included. But just quickly on that was notes around having a clearly coordinated plan for parks, which I know has been talked about, but we haven't yet seen. And a shift in focus for our green space to a resilience as the primary driver for it. And also a note in there around the property behind 38 and 40 Fox Street. There was a conversation and recommendation around doing a feasibility study on that land, which is now coming through a different process, but worth noting that that was originally in that long-term plan discussion. And that's probably the key elements from Featherston Community Board at this stage. Take questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the Featherston Community Board this afternoon? The Mayor.
Yes, Joe, thank you. Can you just elaborate the 40 Fox Street comment you made towards the end, please?
Yes, we have had several conversations as a community board, and at the last formal meeting, in fact, voted up a proposal that will come through to the strategy working committee around the properties behind 38 and 40 Fox Street, which is the vacant land. If you know the area behind the community, behind the medical centre there, and in between the medical centre and basically the pharmacy and the bakery, behind where the markets are, where the Saturday veggie market currently is. We believe that would be a very useful piece of land for Featherston to activate as a centre, for good markets, good community activities.
Thank you. Any other comments for Featherston Community Board this afternoon? Fantastic. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us today. And the Community Board submission will be included in our deliberations.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. That brings us to Pete Smith. Pete, are you with us this afternoon?
What was it?
Anyone this afternoon?
Thank you for being able to present. I have nothing prepared, but I'm not even sure which question I'm talking to. But I'm here to make a stand on the amount of rates I pay. I farm on the edge of town. I pay $48,500 rates a year, and I'm here to make a stand. I'm not going to pay any more increases. I don't know, you people probably have higher taxable incomes than me. I'm not sure why I have to pay more rates than you. Why I'm subsidising the rest of the people in town just based on that, because I own a farm on the edge of town. think there was a statistic the other day that 48% of the rates are going on water, the three waters. We do have access to the water supply, but we're paying $24,000 a year in theory for something we don't use. We have a hill farm, the rates for that farm are $8,000 a year, that's included in the 50. I had to make a complaint because the grader hadn't graded the road for 6 years. Transport company refused to pay it, so I'm paying $8,000 a year for something that's not connected to water, and we get very little bang for buck. I'm sure when you set a budget every year, you go through and work out where you get the bang for buck, which, when I do that, 10% of my costs are rates every year. So if I went through and looked at all the things where I get return on my investment, rates would not be one of them. I'm sure we get we're paying regional council rates within that, so we get the river and parts of it. It's acceptable, obviously, but I'm not here to subsidise people in town who are probably earning 10 times more than me. We made a loss on our farm last year. Still pay $50,000 in rates. But the entire taxable income is being subsidised by me because I own the farm on the edge of town. I challenge you people to look me in the eye and tell me just because I have a farm on the edge of town that I should be paying 10 times more rates than you pay. Strict figure on that, but probably you probably pay 5,000 for a property in town. I'm paying 50, rounded up. Can't carry on. You know, we're not here to subsidise everyone else. I have a family, boat farm, we've been here since 1872, but we're not carrying the town on our shoulders.
Sorry, are you happy that that's the end of?
Pretty much like something. Didn't prepare anything.
No, it's okay, just didn't want to.
I'm here to make a stand on paying any more rates.
I just didn't want to interrupt you before you were finished.
Pretty much it.
Fantastic. Councillor Woodcock.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for coming along, Pete. Understand your pain fully. I see it. Look in your face and everything. Did you say, what was the figure you say you pay what, right? So
48,500, that's inclusive of GST.
we had 500 included just, you understand that's a hell of a lot of money. And is that basically you got one family running off, like you haven't got workers that live
I have one manager.
Yes, one.
Yep, one. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Tim.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Just one question. You're not the first person
From a farm who's mentioned paying water rates. Do you pay water rates?
We have a connection on the edge of town, on the way to the dump. We found first farm out of town.
and do you pay wastewater rates?
No, okay, right. So the water rates you pay, I believe, would probably be the same as the water rates everyone here pays.
We have a trough in the paddock. Yes.
Yeah, right. So you are connected, you use it. Why do you think you shouldn't be paying what the rest of us pay?
Pay the same as your water. Where's the other?
Yeah,
Where's 7,500 gone?
Any further questions for Pete this afternoon? No, I think you've made a point clearly.
Yeah.
And,
Can't keep going on. Welcome to public living to make it well. Thanks for the one.
Yeah.
us to a presentation from Democracy Now, presented by Warren Woodgin.
Actually summarise pretty much what I wrote, otherwise I've run out of time.
Thanks, Mark.
Good afternoon. South Wairarapa District Council was established in 1989 through the amalgamation of the Martinborough, Greytown, and Featherston Borough Councils and the Featherston County Council. Mike Gray, a consultant during that amalgamation, noted that Brian Elwood, the Commissioner and the Chairman of the four councils, strongly emphasised preserving the unique character of each town and rural community. Democracy Now! Believes this amalgamation has drifted from our four core principles that at the time were non-negotiable, and that was community identity, community representation, community perspectives, concerns and views, and a community voice. In my submission, I propose reinstating these principles by restoring the pre-1989 council structure, reversing the amalgamation to re-establish the four original councils will be a complex process, likely treated as a local government reorganisation under the Local Government Act 2002 and overseen by the Local Government Commission, the LGC. A proposal to de-amalgamate could originate from a community via petition or the South Wairarapa District Council. Petition would require signatures from at least 10% of electors in the Wairarapa District Council, 10% of electors in the affected area of the current South Wairarapa District to prompt LGC consideration. I believe this is achievable given the recent petition by Leah Hawkins, which gathered over 1,000 signatures to restrict rate increases. Additionally, the 2017 Wairarapa amalgamation poll, where 59% voted against further consolidation, demonstrates that public sentiment can be decisive. This gives me the hope that the ratepayer support could drive the reversal of the 1989 amalgamation. Proposal would need to define the boundaries of the restored councils, e.g. the original boroughs of Martinborough, Greytown, Featherston and the Featherston County, and demonstrate that de-amalgamation aligns with good government principles such as efficiency, representation and cost effectiveness. The Local Government Act 2002 Schedule 3. The LGC could assess the proposal, consulting residents, iwi businesses and other stakeholders, and evaluating factors like financial viability, service delivery, governance, capacity and community support. Financial viability is critical to returning to a pre-1989 council structure as outlined in my submission. I believe each council could better target its rates to meet its unique character and needs, with appropriate staffing levels to deliver value for money. Pre-1989 administration staffing levels were lower than those proposed in my submission, suggesting potential efficiencies. While the long-term plan shows the annual rate increase is lower than the 20% hikes of previous years, the compounded effect reveals a different story. Including this financial year and the next 3 years, total rates, including water services, are projected to rise by 34%. Over 9 years, this compounds to an 88% increase. For example, my current rates of $5,900 require an income of $7,200 at a 17.5% rate increase. By 2029, I will need to earn $9,648. And by 2033-34, a staggering $13,536, equivalent to $1,128 monthly. Now, a person living on the super alone at the moment is only getting just a little over $1,000. So there you're looking at half their income gone and paying the rate bill. Or a person on 40 hours at $25 a week, someone trying to get into a home, is going to be every week of the month is going to be working for the council to pay rates. These figures highlight the true burden on ratepayers. The local government cost index, assumed at approximately 2% annually, may be unrealistic given potential economic challenges such as impending tariffs and supply chain disruptions. Only time will tell. Governance and local support raise further considerations. Are the current mayor and councils content with these projected rate increases, especially when presented as actual costs? Will ratepayers accept the financial strain? How will prospective mayors and councillors feel about committing to these increases for at least another 2 more election cycles? The de-amalgamation process could take 2 to 3 years, including establishing new administration systems and district plans. Major reorganisations may require amendments to the Local Government Act 2002 schedules, necessitating parliamentary approval. The Minister of Local Government could influence the outcome, particularly if central government priorities such as cost efficiency conflict with the local aspirations. However, if challenges remain, the amalgamation would likely face legislative hurdles and central government priorities may not align with communities' desires. Encouraging the National Party's emphasis on localism and the ex-party plan to field candidates in local elections to promote common sense signals a growing focus on decentralised governance and local decision making, which could support such a shift. The Water Done Well option exemplifies the lack of community involvement during initial consultation stages, leaving ratepayers with only the 2 council provided options. To understand the decision-making process, I'll request the advisory group minutes under the GOMAs. The information posted on the South Wairarapa District website yesterday includes a heavily redacted correspondence and minutes, obscuring the identities of those involved. It is unclear who, alongside the 6 representatives from each council, is making decisions on behalf of ratepayers while their identities remain concealed. Perhaps our representatives, the Deputy Mayor or Councillor Olds, could clarify the reason for the secrecy. Now, I haven't included this in the notes I've given to you because actually this came up last night, so it's pretty new. So I'll finish on that and answer any questions.
Any questions for Warren? Plenty of time. So any question for Warren on his submission?
Can I just ask, what are you asking from us?
Well, I think what I've heard, Alistair, is that from just sitting here for after 11 o'clock, there's a lot of people who are unhappy in their own little area, and it makes sense to go back and let people, the farmers sort out their problems, people in Crowtown sort out theirs, people in Fields their problems, go back to how it was. I mean, we're missing all these non-negotiable.
Are you asking us to start your petition, or are you?
I'm just putting it as a suggestion in the long-term plan for incoming council to look at this in some shape or form. Going back to, I mean, I thought we had it with community boards, but community boards have no teeth whatsoever. And certainly the farmers in the city.
That's what Cock and then the Mayor.
Hey, thanks, Warren. You might come on. So with that idea, what would you see as a council look as far as councillors and mayor, et cetera, working for each, going back to exactly what they used to have, or
A chairman and a few councillors.
Yeah, thank you. And I think your suggestion is a perfectly arguable suggestion.
And in clarification to Councillor Plymouth's question, what you're saying is put the process of the amalgamation into the long-term plan, which is a logical consequence of it. However, the logical consequence of that logical consequence is at some point you have to pay for it. Do you have any idea what the amalgamation would cost?
I have no idea at all.
Right? Wouldn't be cheap, I suspect.
Maybe the answer. This is not going to be cheap with the way we're going with our rate increases. I mean, I can't afford to pay 13,000. I mean, the people you're asking the money from, their incomes aren't going to increase by 30.4% in the next 3 years, or 88% over the next 9 years. I just heard from the farmer here, he was paying 40,000. Put 88% on his rate bill.
This is not the place to have it.
Any final questions for Warren, please? No, thank you. Oh, sorry.
I've really,
Councillor Maynard.
just got a really quick one. Thank you for that presentation, Warren, I do appreciate it. But I am curious because you say that you're here for democracy now, and that covers community identity, community representation, community perspectives, concerns and views, and community voice. But everything that I see here, I'm just wondering how you fit Mana Whenua, considering that they've always been here, they haven't moved here, they've always been here, and I just can't see anywhere here where you've actually included that in.
It's so that you would have to be consulted.
So they'd be spoken to by
Yes, but
the different councils that would be set up in each area.
yeah, it'd be by the local government commission. Anyone would be spoken to by the local government commission to whether they want it or not. But I guess the start would be a position which would involve everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is,
Thank you.
that is time. That is time. So thank you, Warren, and Democracy Now for your presentation. And your presentation will be considered as part of our deliberations project. Next speaker is Rusty Russell. No, Russell isn't with us. Norris? Norris, fantastic. So Norris's submission is page 345, pack 95.
I'll just hand those around. Let's just maybe simplify the process.
Thank you.
So firstly, could I start by complimenting the council on the well-seated consultation document. So to speak to my submission, I particularly want to focus on question 3. So how should we define separately used or inhabitable parts or sewers? My belief is that sewers not be target rated with uniform charges, as they already exist in the one flat rate per rating unit. We are informed from South Wairarapa District Council publications provided to me that one, council applies some uniform charges, annual general, roading, water supply, wastewater, to each sewer, rather than charging one flat rate per rating unit, the entire property. Also, this reflects the fact that properties with multiple uses typically have more impact on council services. Such as water, roading, networks, than what single use properties do. So my question is, did the Strategy Working Committee, SWC, carry out research to ensure this assumption was correct? That in most cases, typically, this was the situation. Did council responsible for introducing this new fee ensure accuracy and fairness for all in terms of services provided? I believe the council logic is flawed. For example, how is the belief sewers have an extra impact on services reconciled against the rating units that take in boarders or have large numbers of occupants? How can the council recommend a change in the submission document, question 4, to drop the current target rate on refuse and recycling charge to each sewer, when in question 3 they plan to continue targeting sewers, albeit with a clearer definition? Should policy not be consistent? the adoption of capital value for value-based rating purposes also captures the value of any sewer and is therefore currently rated. The targeting rating of sewers is a penalty and does little in resolving the current housing crisis. It is a retrospective fee, ex post facto, introduced after the fact, and that ratepayers who have invested in additional accommodation based on existing fees may not have done so. So that is simply my submission. Any questions?
Any questions for Norris pertaining to his feedback on SUPs? Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I think the difficulty I have with my question, Lawrence, is that actually you spend most of your presentation asking us questions, which we are really not able to answer here. But I do want to address one. Let's imagine you have a typical residential section with two houses on it, but it's a single plot as far as rating is concerned. Those two houses, they're both connected to the water services. They're both connected to the sewage system. Are you saying to us that they should pay the same water and sewage rates as a single flat? Because I think that is what you said.
Well, that I would suggest is an extreme. No, sewers wide and vary, from small one-person sleep outs through to as what you described.
Well, excuse me.
I'm answering your question. Well, I'm intent, but I won't be able to answer your question satisfactorily if you keep interrupting me. So I would imagine if a second dwelling was allowed to be built on a rating unit as such, a dwelling, which I imagine is a full-blown household. If the regulations, bylaws enable that to happen, well, yes, the answer would be one rating unit.
Thank you. I think you have answered the question. Any further questions for Norris before we? No, thank you, Norris.
Thank you.
Could I finally just add that it would be nice to have a report on the outcome of the submissions. My experience in the past, we leave here today and hear nothing.
Point well made. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are running slightly ahead of schedule, so I'm suggesting that at this point, given that people are booked in to submit in their time blocks, we take a short break, stretch our legs, use the facilities and adjourn.
Oh, it's waving.
Who's the next?
Wes is waving, saying I'm here now.
Yes, I know, but then we still have more people running behind you, so thank you.
Who's next?
It's great. Great.
Great and communicable, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll take a short break and then reconvene just for more.
I think they